All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, and salutations to the brethren that are pushing out this word in truth and in sincerity. All right, this is your brother Yahweh Allah from GMS Chicago coming at you again with another lesson. All right, in this video is inspired by the conflict that's going out over in the so-called Middle East. You know, you have the Israelis attacking Iran and Iran shooting back. All right, which a lot of their supersonic ballistic missiles, all right, their supersonic missiles, were able to penetrate their Iron Dome. All right, and you know, civil casualties were taken from the people that are in the land of Israel right now. These small headers, okay, and now they're pushing for the U.S. to get into the conflict. And, you know, this is prophesied in the scriptures. You know, the scriptures talk about the rumors of war. All right, so this is all part of prophecy. All the start of this Third World War. Okay, so that the Lord could ultimately bring all the nations together to judge them and to deliver His people. All right, so we're gonna go through some prophetic scriptures through the scriptures. All right, Lord willing, I pray this is an edifying lesson. Okay, this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 49 and verse 20. It says, "Therefore hear the counsel of the Lord that He has taken against Edom." And this is something that they're not going to teach you in the Catholic or Christian church, you know, that the Lord has indignation, righteous hatred for a people called Edom. You know, the whole book of Obadiah talks about the complete destruction of them. All right, Hebrews tells you that they didn't get that Esau, who is the father of Edom, didn't get any place of repentance, though he saw for it with tears. All right, these are Malachi tells you it's the people whom the Lord had indignation forever. Okay, and it gets repeated that the Lord hates them in Romans 9 in the New Testament. All right, these are the sons of perdition. Wherever they come, they push forth their wickedness. All right, their backwardness. All right, men turning into women, women into men. All right, making the woman the head of the household. All right, pushing forth that vile affections with homosexuality. All right, everything that's righteous, you know, they go against. You know, the scriptures tell you have a beard, they have a bald face. All right, and it's all done, you know, and their conquest and their taking over is all done through deception and lies. All right. You know, this Esau, Edom, you know, the man of perdition, the man of sin. All right. So here's another counsel that the Lord has taken against Edom. It says, and his purpose, that he has purpose against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. All right. And if we go into the word least, we'll go get it real quick. You can bear with me real quick. This least, it says the insignificant, the young. All right, and the most insignificant, the smaller is that of the small hats, man. You know, they're the most wicked. The head of the Esau, Edom. All right, Amalek, which is the grandson of Edom, of Esau. All right, and they're the most wicked, man. They're like how the Elder Malcolm calls them, the victim villains. All right, how are they the victims, but meanwhile they control the media. All right, they push they push all these homosexuality and being this thug unto our people. All right, and meanwhile, you know, they're profiting on our downfall, on our oppression. Okay, and they control all of these so-called politicians here in the U.S. This is why you can't talk about them, you know, without being canceled. All right, but it says, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. It's through their works you're going to draw them out to come out to this war and to ultimately get destroyed. All right, it says, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. Okay, now this conflict that recently happened, we know that that's not gonna be the end all be all, because they still have to implement that MOTB, that CHIP. So that's got to come first. But this is signs of the beginning of it. All right, them trying to get the U.S. to go against Iran, and Iran previously, all right, was called Persia. Persia officially changed its name, all right, to Iran, and you can look that up. All right, and if we read it here in Ezekiel 38, all right, it tells you that that's going to be the one. They're going to be the ones that link up with Gog, all right, which is Magog, right? You look at all the old maps of where Magog was. It's going to show you that they're in the land that today is Russia. So you're going to have Russia, Iran. The scriptures telling you that they're going to come and be a major player in this in this last world's war, man. All right, let's read it here in this book of Ezekiel 38:1. It says, and the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I am against thee, O Gog. So these are these people that the Most High is set against. All right, but according to this so-called Christianity that was brought to you through slavery, all right, they tell you that God loves everybody, but there's a judgment that the Most has set up for the last days, and we're going to be reading it here through these prophetic scriptures. It says, and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. All right, so even how the U.S. is going to get pulled by the least of the flock. These small hatters, they're going to pop it up, get it started. They're going to pop it off, get it started. All right, the Lord even got the Russians getting pulled into this conflict as well. All right, it says, I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, and all of them handling swords. All right, verse 5 says, Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya with them. All right, so it first lists Persia, which now is called Iran. All of them with shield and helmet. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Right, because a lot of people in the Far East look to Russia, all right, as their protector. Those that aren't, having gone to bed with the beast, all right, with the West, all right, they look towards Russia, towards China, as a protector, all right, and the Lord is gonna draw them out to be that to them for this great conflict that's gonna come up, this third world war. All right, verse 7, it says, be thou prepared, and prepare thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. Okay, and But that's the point, that he's going to come out and be drawn out so he could be a guard unto these people. All right. So whether, you have all these peace deals supposedly trying to be made, which a lot of them are just, you know, uh, publicity stunts to try to show the masses that they're in the right. No, the Lord is going to stir up the minds of these rulers to get into conflict, man. It's prophecy. The word of the Most High doesn't go out void, because ultimately the wicked root has to get uprooted before a righteous root gets established. So this is all the will of the Most High, and this is the time for us to be getting right and the side of the Most High, so we can avoid the judgment, the destruction that's gonna come, man. All right. This is the book of Zephaniah, chapter 3 and verse 8. It says, "Therefore wait ye upon me, saith Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey." All right. And what are we gonna? He's gonna rise up to the prey. All right, which makes him, you got prey, you got predators, but that means that the Most High is gonna come back with a judgment. All right. It says, "For my determination is to gather the nations," right? The least of the flock is going to draw them out. And then also he's going to put hooks on Gog, all right, which is Magog. It says, "For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy." And this hasn't happened yet. The closest that the Most High has done to judge the whole world, the only time, really, I won't say the closest, but the only time that's happened before was with Noah, or when he drowned the earth. But this here, what it's saying, is going to be by fire. Okay, and he's going to gather them all together and judge them as before. Okay, and for what reason? Let's go here to the book of Joel, chapter 3 and verse 1. It says, "For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem," because nowadays the people who claim to be the people of the Most High, they only call themselves what do they call themselves? Jewish, all right, which only refers to one tribe. All right, but the people of the Most High consist of 12 tribes. That's why it says here, the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem. So the Most High, he's going to come back and grab his people from the land of their captivity. All right, and the prophecies, the archaeology, it's all shown that the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are those tribes. You had the Negroes, which escaped Roman persecution in 70 AD, all right, and went to the west coast of Africa, and from there was picked up and brought into the transatlantic slave trade, all right, and then you had the 10 lost tribes, which we know it's really 9 lost because Revelation doesn't mention Dan, all right, but their scholars say the 10 lost tribes, and which the scriptures describe Israel being an innumerable multitude. Where did they go? When they found the Western world, they found an innumerable multitude dwelling in tents, like the scriptures say that the Israelites do. All right, that they dwell in tents. They had their fringes on. All right, you can see in ancient, I don't say ancient, but like in old Native American garments, you find the fringes in the border of blue. You had in Los Lunas, New Mexico, you have the 10 tribes, not with the Assyrian Hebrew, but the older biblical Hebrew, the 10 Commandments. All right, go ahead, but be quiet. All right, so the archaeology's there. All right, the prophecies say that we're going to be in captivity together in Babylon. All right, which the ancient Babylonian captivity was only for its majority, mainly for the Judites. All right, the southern kingdom. All right, so when were we in captivity together in Babylon? In Babylon the Great, in U.S. All right, in the USA. which is the great whore that poured out many abominations that the scriptures talk about. All right. So we are those people. And the Lord's going to come back for his people to take them away from captivity. You know, they're the ones that are being oppressed. All right. Now you got Edomites too that, you know, that are complaining about inequality, but because their elites sold them out. You know, they said, why just these people when we can have way more people under subjection? All right, but that's the nature of these Edomites. They're greedy, they're covetous, they're merciless, they don't have any mercy. All right, just cruel, wicked people, man. All right. This verse 2, it says, I will also gather all nations. The same thing we just read in Zephaniah. The same thing. So it says, I will also gather all the nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, which that literally translates to the judgment of Yahweh. All right. So it's the valley of the judgment of Yahweh. It says, and I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. All right. And, you know, for those who have some confusion and think that pleading is, you know, he's going to be crying out from the heavens to try to, you know, convince the nations, like if he has to beg them or anything like that. No, let's see what that pleading is. It says, Isaiah 66:15, it says, for behold, the Lord will come with fire and with his chariots like a whirlwind to render his anger, his fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire. For by fire and by his sword will the Lord plead with all flesh, and the slain of the Lord shall be many. So this is all prophecy. It's all planned to come. You know, the third woe is going to come. All right, and the Lord's going to gather all the nations. You know, you're seeing the prophecy speak, but it's to judge the wicked Pharaoh of this world, you know, and to bring the deliverance of his people, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who fear and believe and tremble at his word according to truth, and also the dispersed Israelites that are amongst the other nations who look like these other nations, but still have that fear of the Most High and believe and tremble at his word according to truth. All right, not according to this plantation oppression, this Christianity that they brought to us via slavery. Okay, because according to the scriptures, the Most High and his Son are men of color. All right, dark skinned people. All right, you know what you would today call so-called Negro. You know, even the so-called scientists, they'll tell you that the original person was a so-called a dark-skinned person. I don't want to say black because there's no such thing as black. They put that as a derogatory term to you, while they call themselves white to make themselves look pure and you dirty. Okay, so the Lord's going to come back for his people. This is going to come. All right, judgment is coming to the earth, and it's time to get right with the Most High, so that we can escape the judgments that are going to come. So I'll leave y'all with that. You know, I pray this is an edifying lesson. Like always, giving all praises and all glory and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rekah HaKodash. Double honors unto the apostles of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, and salutations to the brethren pushing forth this word in truth and in sincerity. Until the next one, brothers, say shalom. As always, Kwame Asherallah and Abba Babal.